Blessed is the fruit of Jesus. Hashtag Holy Mary, Mother of God.
Hashtag pray for us sinners.
Hashtag Glory be to the Father and to the Holy Spirit. Hashtag Kate Woolaway. Hashtag Chapter. Hashtag Candy Canes. Hashtag Cake Eggs. Hashtag I decorate the Christmas tree on Thanksgiving. Hashtag I know you are, but what am I? Hashtag that's not a plant, that's a...
Hashtag Angry Orchard. Hashtag Crown Royal Maple. Hashtag Maple.
Hashtag wine. Hashtag Latin.
Hashtag Sin Cornbell. Hashtag BS.
Hashtag Eliza Thornberry. Hashtag Donnie Thornberry. Hashtag Nick Jr.
Keep going, please.
Hashtag Oswald. Hashtag he is the president. Hashtag Dubs just
Hashtag Seven Tentacles. The eighth tentacle is your penis. Hashtag short and everyone else is hashtag penis. Hashtag short. Hashtag everyone else. Hashtag everyone. Hashtag else.
Hashtag Frank the Turtle. Hashtag his friend can read and his name is Pip. Hashtag Great Expectations. Hashtag Mrs. Rackley. Hashtag 9th grade.
Hashtag Mr. Shaky. Mr. Shaky. Hashtag Shanky. Hashtag Mr. Hashtag Big Dick. Hashtag Tunnel. Hashtag I love your hairline. Hashtag Ed.
Hashtag Adam Brody. Hashtag OC. Hashtag Misha Barton. Hashtag I love cocaine.
Hashtag she's coffee. Hashtag she gets hit by.
Hashtag she dies. She fucking dies at the end.
Hashtag I wish I knew. Hashtag my roommate told me. Hashtag WVU. Hashtag the Mountain Lair. Hashtag Brooks.
Hashtag I drink moonshine. Hashtag my toes love moonshine. Hashtag I had you.
Hashtag Apple. Hashtag iPhone.
Hashtag Mac. Hashtag fucking everyone that eats Macs.
Hashtag Big Mac. Hashtag Mac. Hashtag Big. Hashtag fries.
Hashtag chicken fries. Hashtag chicken fries.
Hashtag chicken fries. Hashtag supersize. Hashtag Arby's. Hashtag roast beef. Hashtag roast beef with cheddar. Hashtag Reuben. Hashtag Dr. Pepper. Hashtag diet Dr. Pepper. I said Arby's.
What?
Hashtag potato bites. Hashtag mashed potatoes. Hashtag stuffing.
Hashtag Whoppers.
Hashtag turkey. Hashtag curly
fries.
Everyone loves curly fries. Hashtag.
Why am I thinking?
Justin
Hashtag
Timberlake.
America.
Hashtag Jimmy Kimmel.
Hashtag Justin
Hashtag Late Night
Bieber.
TV. Hashtag Justin
Robert
Bieber is my new
Pattinson.
girlfriend. Hashtag I love Twilight. Hashtag your mom was in the OC. Hashtag no she wasn't. Hashtag yes she was. Hashtag Melinda Clark. Hashtag Misha Barton does have cocaine just for fun. Hashtag cocaine is fun. Hashtag girls. Caitlin loves cocaine. Hashtag wine. Hashtag homemade. Hashtag Yingling. Hashtag dubs. Hashtag dub. Hashtag dub. Team for life. Hashtag everyone loves dub. Hashtag Tina can't stop laughing. Hashtag I'm running out of hashtag. Hashtag Kayla.
You only have 160 characters.
Hashtag 140. Hashtag bitch.
Done.
Swear.
Shut up!
It's hilarious.
Hash Prag. You sort of hash Prag.
Hashtag cocaine's my favorite drug. Hashtag just kidding. It's my hashtag I love heroin. Hashtag just kidding. Everyone loves cocaine because cocaine's awesome.
Hashtag everyone in Beaver has a heroin problem.
Hashtag Bright Lights Big City. Hashtag Harry Potter. Hashtag Wingardium Leviosa. Hashtag You're a Patronus. Hashtag I'm sorry I'm running out. I'm just sorry.
Okay.
This is so